Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Tesla Prince, and today finally getting around to doing my 2-year ownership review of my Tesla Model 3. And today we're going to focus in on a number of areas. There's so much I would like to talk about, but I'm going to try to keep this video not going on for too long. And so I'm just going to highlight a few areas. I'll probably end up making more videos in the future to focus in on some of these areas, but without further ado, let's kind of dig right into it. So to start off with, I just want to point out a really important part of the whole electric vehicle ownership experience, and that is charging networks. And the reason I say that is not every electric vehicle can charge at every possible charging station. There's a number of reasons around that. But you can see here, this is a map of the Tesla Supercharging network. I'm going to kind of focus in on Canada and a little bit here in the West. You can see here all these red dots, those are Tesla Superchargers. And just in this past year, you know, by the end of 2021, end of last year, you can see these red dots coming up to Prince George, which was a real game changer in terms of people living more central northern BC, getting us access, you know, to the lower part of the province, as well as getting across over to Alberta and the rest of Canada. You can really travel right across Canada fairly quickly with this supercharging network. And just to give reference for people who don't know, Tesla has a number of superchargers. Their latest supercharger is version 3, and they charge up to 250 kilowatts. And to put that into perspective, for those of you living in British Columbia, most, I think all of the BC Hydro charging stations in BC would be 50 kilowatt. So that means the Tesla superchargers, these version 3 superchargers, would be 5 times faster. Up to 5 times faster than BC Hydro. So just showing that map here, you can see here a lot more access. Going on to PlugShare, this is an application that kind of more or less shows third-party chargers. So this would be all the other charging networks that exist out there, and you can see there's a lot more of these, but majority of these definitely in Canada would not be 250 kilowatt. I believe the Petro-Canada as well as the Electrify Canada charging stations would be up to that speed, about 350 actually. But the majority of these are going to be somewhere in the 50 kilowatt range. I've driven both in British Columbia and Ontario, and for the most part, from what I've seen, that seems to be the case for these third-party chargers. So a lot of options here. You can really get around the areas, and you can see, like, really in the northern areas of Canada, there's not a lot going on there, and that's the most difficult area to travel, but there are other options as well. And it's really cool to see over here in the far north, you have the Yukon. They're really building this out. If I looked at this a year ago, there was a lot less here, just a handful, but now it's building out. Same with Alaska. You can see a little bit here happening by Northwest Territories, Nunavut. So that's pretty cool. All right, moving along. So just talking about supercharging, you will pay more money for supercharging than you will for slower chargers. But this is a recent change that Tesla's made, and you can see here on Tesla's website, they have 4 tiers where they have different pricing models, and it all comes down to the speed at which you're charging at. And that's because they have different speed superchargers. Older ones are slower, newer ones can go faster. And also vehicles, not all vehicles can charge to the maximum speeds available. I took a picture here. This is a supercharger in Prince George, area that I live in. And they kind of have an example here of what the pricing would be like. So 0 to 60, this is actually comparable to BC Hydro. I think BC Hydro might be somewhere between 20 to 25 cents a minute. And they go up only up to 50 kilowatts. So, I mean, the Tesla Supercharger, pretty comparable. And it seems fair to me, these prices, because as the speed increases, they just double the price. Because what it means is you're getting double the amount of energy. So they're just basically, in my opinion, you know, not doing much more than breaking even. They're just charging a fair price for that electricity. There is one important thing to mention, and that is these idle fees. And that is, so after you're done charging, if you just leave your car there plugged in, they will charge you $1 per minute. If you just, for Tesla Superchargers anyway. As far as I know, none of the third parties do that at this time. But that keeps those stations free so that other people can use it, and they can't just leave their car there when it's finished charging. So some perspective there, but this is all reasonable to me. So getting into my experience, we can see here, this is my lifetime map. So for those 2 years, and actually now it's about 2 years and 2 months that I've owned this car, I've put on 60,000 kilometers. You can see up here at the top, 63,315 kilometers in those 2 years. And I've been all over the place. I've been out to Prince Rupert. I've been down to Vancouver. I've been up to Dawson Creek, out to Mackenzie, and Calgary multiple times. I've been through the icefields, I don't know what you call it, the icefields parkway, I guess. And that's through Jasper and Banff National Parks. Been down to Kamloops a bunch of times. So really, a lot of the big artery areas, but also some of these, like I've even been, if I zoom in here, been down to Tumbler Ridge as an example, which is a pretty remote area to get to. And I would say from a charging perspective, driving north of Prince George is probably the most difficult thing to do right now, just because there's really just a handful of charging stations when you look on PlugShare. Just kind of highlight that as I come in here. So it's these yellow stations that are the fast chargers. The green ones are very slow. And so you can see there's one coming soon at McLeod Lake, but there's really only one up here just north of Chetwynd. Only one fast charger, and that's like the most northerly fast charger in BC. And that's only 25 kilowatts, so half the speed of BC Hydro, and I guess 1/10 the speed of Tesla Superchargers. So anyway, lots of experience traveling all around. I really wanted to test the limits of my car. I've been very happy with it. And so, yeah, I've saved myself. You can see here my total gas savings. It's more than this because I installed this application probably after about 4,000 kilometers already on the car. So when I factor that in, this is well over $6,000 of gas savings. I've spent about $1,400 in electricity driving these 60,000 kilometers. That's pretty good. And really have not had to do any maintenance or anything like that. It's been a fantastic experience. Taking a look at more statistics here, you can see just some learnings. A lot of learning to do when you switch from one technology to another, from gasoline vehicles to battery electric. Temperature is an important factor, and you can see from this graph, this has almost 60,000 kilometers on it, the efficiency of your batteries. And basically they like warmer temperatures. You're going to get in the high 80s, and then when it's warmer in the summertime, and as it gets down to freezing, which is 0 to -5 here, you have about 70% efficiency, and it drops from there. And the worst I've seen was colder than -25. So in -30 temperatures, less than half the range, but I didn't have a lot of kilometers driven in situations like that. Basically in Prince George these days, it's if it does get that cold, it's not for very long, but still very drivable. I mean, when the maximum range of your vehicle, for my vehicle, I have a Tesla Model 3 from 2020. It's the all-wheel drive, so I do have about 518 kilometers maximum range. And you're going to see here in one of my other battery degradation reports, I have lost some capacity over those 2 years, but it's basically peaked out, and I don't anticipate to lose any more range. That's normal for battery electric vehicles. You lose a certain percentage in your first year and a half, and it tends to peak out after that. But anyway, the summary here is temperature does affect your ability to how far you can go on your charge. And so you factor that into the season that you're driving. Having said that, I have driven in the wintertime in blizzard conditions from Prince George to Calgary. and haven't had any problems. Even I was stuck one of those journeys for 4 hours in a fatality that blocked the highway, and it was no problem just sitting there using Netflix and the other tools in the car, just waiting for the highway to reopen. Let's take a look at speed efficiency, because that's another important factor to think about. You know, the faster you drive, generally speaking, if you drive, you know, faster, like if the speed limit's 100 and you go like 115 or 20, you do lose efficiency, right? There's more wind resistance, you're using more energy. So you can see that here, dropping down to about 75 to 70% efficiency when going a bit faster. I'm not sure. When I went 115, it said 81%. Maybe that's true. I mean, according to this, it says it's true, but I don't know. I found that when I drive faster, and you know what? I don't know, maybe it's not the speed so much as how heavy you are on the accelerator. Quick accelerations tend to use a lot of energy from the battery, and that's a lot less efficient. So that's not factored into these statistics, the quick accelerations, but this is just, you know, these top speeds. So anyways, you can see here it fluctuates. If the speed is under 50, you know, the efficiency is a lot less. So that's just one of those statistics. If I move on here, my odometer history, this is just per year. Each of these red lines is the hard brake at a certain year. So you can see here in January of 2020, you know, I started off with basically 0 kilometers, and this tool wasn't installed until after 4,000 kilometers, like I said before. But, you know, my steady rise up to over 60,000 kilometers. I'm at 63 now. And just to show that is pretty much a steady line. I did a lot of traveling. This is definitely more traveling than I have normally done in, you know, the past 20 years of my life. I really wanted to push the car to the limits. I wanted to know if this investment was worth it. And I was really impressed with the ability of where I could go and what I could do with this car. Very affordable. We'll talk about battery degradation report. So when I first got the car, this blue line is my battery range and the green is the fleet average. So I guess my battery has done quite well. And I don't know all the reasons around that, but one thing for sure, with every battery electric vehicle, the message there is that you should always leave your battery plugged in, your electric car plugged in. ABC, always be charging. And that's because they have smart battery management systems that, you know, they'll shut off and turn on the charging when they need to, and it just keeps your battery in tip-top shape. And so you can see here, I have lost from 518 down to about 480 kilometers, and essentially it's basically peaked out here. So that's pretty much the biggest drop I'm going to have, which is right in line with what's expected. And so I'll probably peak off at about 480 kilometers, which, in all honesty, I've driven all over the province. In a single charge, I've been able to drive from Prince George to Dawson Creek. In a single charge, Prince George to Smithers. What else have I done? I don't remember them all, but basically, you know, over 400 kilometers in a single charge. And at that point, you know, you really do need to stop for food and bathroom breaks and stuff like that. So really happy with the distance and going through mountain ranges and all that kind of thing. It's really worked out well. So you can see these statistics here. So now let's get into the costs, which I've tracked over these past 2 years having driven. So these costs that I have calculated, I cut it off at the exact 2-year anniversary. So even though I'm now at 63,000, this was at 57,000 at my 2-year anniversary. So given all of that, I spent about $1,500, $1,495 in electricity costs charging my car for 2 years. So, you know, about $750 per year in electric charging. And most of that is related to whatever the cost is for your home electricity pricing. And so here on the right hand side on the screen, you can see I've captured some prices. I did some research online for all the different provinces in Canada and what the average prices are for each of those provinces. And so for BC, I spent this for home charging, $1,395. The rest of the cost there is from like Supercharging and other third-party networks, which have a higher price. But for home charging in BC, it would cost $1,395. The Canadian average, it would cost about $1,500 for anybody across the average. But for each province, you can see Alberta here they have cheaper electricity, $862. Yukon, $1,586. Saskatchewan, $2,309. Manitoba, $1,218. Ontario, $1,078. Quebec, $926. New Brunswick, $1,649. Nova Scotia, $1,903. Newfoundland, $1,522. PEI, $2,131. Northwest Territories, which I believe now is can't remember the name, sorry guys. Anyway, right there beside Yukon, $5,700. So electricity prices in the far north for Nunavut and the territories, they're a lot higher. Nunavut, $11,420. So electric costs up there are pretty high, but those are definitely anomalies. So they're in yellow. And you can see here the general average. You're going to spend on average across Canada about $1,500 for charging at home, and that's over 2 years. So once again, about $750 a year for doing 30,000 kilometers of driving per year. Not too bad. And when I compare that to my 2007 Honda Accord, oil changes, I spent in my Honda Accord $620 over a year. I guess that's over, price is estimated at 20,000 kilometers a year. That's over 2 years. So $620 of oil changes on that car over 2 years. $4,400 in fuel, which is about $5,000. So, that's 100% saved on the electric car. And so a lot of savings to be had there. Really pleased with my experience so far. Let's see what else we have here. So I'm just going to kind of wrap up this video with the good, the bad, and Turo. And I'll talk about what Turo is after. So the good items here you can see on the screen, I talked about Tesla Superchargers. They're a mature company. They know what they're doing. They have a fantastic charging network for those long trips that you want to make across Canada or America. And you'll find chargers in all the major cities, generally speaking. So a lot of availability, and that's an important note to mention. But other EVs, they're starting to make partnerships and talking about rolling out their own charging networks. Definitely Tesla's ahead there. So that is one good thing for Tesla. Was noticeable having the car always having a full charge in the morning, or full tank, so to speak. You just plug it in your garage at home. It's all charged up, ready to go in the morning. You never have to stop at a gas station, and that was pretty cool. A lot of incentives, they're still there. Various levels of governments will give you discounts off the car. They'll give you discounts off setting up charging at your home. And most people install a NEMA 1450 plug. That's kind of like an RV plug, a 50 amp RV plug. And that'll do the job for pretty much every electric vehicle, and that'll charge you from 0 to 100% overnight for pretty much any of those cars. Having a warm car in the winter, having a cool car in the summer with AC, automatically done, was awesome. And that's all controlled through settings that you put in the car through your cell phone app. Just was a really awesome treat. Autopilot, it was a game changer for driving on long trips. You just put it in autopilot, it stays in the lane, it keeps the speed, it speeds up and slows down for cars that are in front of you and whatnot, and it just made the drive a lot easier, and it doesn't tire you out as much. Traction control on this car was amazing. Best traction control I've ever been in any car. Really hard to spin out on the ice. It's not like you never will, but just with the weight distribution and with the right winter tires, this car is a tank. No maintenance, like I said, for 2 years. First time in my life I haven't had to do anything really, except for swapping the tires, changing the windshield wiper fluid. That's it. The torque, this car accelerates so quickly that when you're at a red light, you're always going to get ahead and be able to switch into that next lane if you need to make a turn. And it just saves me, I would say, 1/4 of my time driving. Because of that acceleration, I'm able to get away from the other traffic that's maybe blocking lanes and whatnot. It's just a real treat. Cost of electricity, like I said, 1/3, probably to 1/4 of my ICE vehicles at this point. Waiting for my wife to finish her shopping. You're sitting, the husband's there in the car waiting for his wife to finish. Sometimes I go in the store too, but you can sit there, watch Netflix, browse in the web browser or whatever. Technology is just great, so it's just a real treat to be able to be productive in your car, and that was really good. Everything about this car is automatic, and what do I mean about that? It's like the headlights turn off, the interior lights just turn off when you leave, the doors can automatically lock themselves when you walk away from the car. It has security cameras built in, all the cameras, 8 cameras around the car. You can have them record if someone tries to break into your car or whatever. There's a whole YouTube channel called Tesla Cam, Wham Bam Tesla Cam, and that's people submitting their security videos and all kinds of things there. It's actually quite a cool feature. And just the temperature is automatically set, all the driver settings, your seats, your steering wheel position, everything is customized to you. And if someone else comes to use the car, they can set their profile. It's pretty cool. It's the most comfortable vehicle I've ever driven in. It's perfect for long trips. Usually my wife in the past would get, feeling motion sickness and whatnot. But in this car, generally speaking, if I'm not stepping on the accelerator, then she's pretty comfortable. Fully integrated technology. You can make phone calls, sending text, has voice commands. That's a feature that's not mentioned enough. People complain they don't know how to turn on the windshield wipers or how to turn on the radio or something like that. There's a button on the steering wheel, you push it and you just give it a command. You can say open the trunk, or you can say play Yummy by Justin Bieber, and it'll just do the action that you give the voice command for. And that's a fantastic feature because you don't have to be distracted when you're driving. The driver assist, which is a really great feature Tesla has, they call it Autopilot, does a really great job keeping you safe. It's helped me avoid a number of accidents. It also has its flaws. We'll get into that in the negative. And according to Edmunds, when my Model 3 gets to 0% charge, it has a buffer of available additional energy that'll get you another 35 kilometers. So just a lot of things Tesla has considered. Rarely also do you need to use your brakes for electric vehicles. They have this thing called regenerative braking, which means when you take your foot off the accelerator pedal, the car slows down to a stop and puts that energy back into the battery. Uses that motion like little generators, and that's a pretty cool feature. So the side effect is you don't have to use your brakes as often. Also, I can charge almost anywhere. So yes, you can charge at home. Yes, you can charge on Superchargers and on PlugShare, but because this is electricity, that infrastructure is everywhere, which means if you're in Timbuktu, Canada, where there's no charging infrastructure for EVs, you can find yourself an RV park, or you can find yourself a 110 volt plug somewhere, and in a pinch you can just plug into that if you have the adapters, and you can get yourself out of trouble. That's pretty cool, just to say the least. And there's the possibility for energy independence with electric vehicles, which means you could go with solar panels or something like that, with house batteries, right? There are solutions. Tesla sells this as well, but so do other companies. Solar panels charging batteries, which then provide energy for your whole house. You can use that to charge your car. Just having that as an option is fantastic because you don't really have that as an option for gasoline. So that's kind of neat. And then the range for my 2020 all-wheel drive Tesla Model 3 being 518 kilometers, it's more than enough for all the trips that I've had to do. It's enough. Even after 2 years, I feel that that range is sufficient, and I don't have really any range anxiety. I feel like I know how this car works. I can get wherever I need to. So those are all the sort of positives that I could think of for this video. Let's get into the negatives. So what needs improvement? Full self-driving. So this is a feature that you can pay for, which I ended up doing. And I feel that Tesla and Elon Musk has talked about this feature for many years, 5 years, maybe even 10 years at this point. And it just is not what everyone says that it is. It's, autopilot is one thing, but full self-driving just isn't reliable. We'll see what happens in the future, but it's just not worth getting. That's definitely a negative. Especially in snowy conditions like in the north for BC. The moment snow covers the roads, full self-driving won't even work. You can't even turn it on. Another thing is it's not transferable. So you buy this software feature for your car, and if the car gets into an accident, that's it. Insurance doesn't cover it, and you can't move it to another car. And if you sell that car, you can't transfer it to another Tesla vehicle or give it to a friend or something. You just can't. So you pay this expensive amount of money. It's something like, I think in Canadian dollars now, it'd be close to $14,000 or $15,000 to get this feature, and it is tied to that car. So yeah, I'm not going to say anything else. You can come up with your own summary. Anyway, freezing rain also freezes the windows closed. So if you're parked outside, not in a garage, and you have a lot of freezing rain in your area, just because of the way the windows work, there is no frame around the top and sides of the window. And so freezing rain can make that freeze into place and making it hard to even open the door. Because when you open these Tesla doors, the windows pop down a couple inches and then they open. And so that whole thing can become a problem in certain weather conditions. And same with the charging port. So sometimes you have to de-thaw those things. So that's a negative. I talked about the frameless windows. I just think they're a bad idea for a lot of reasons. Cabin noise. So I've been told that this has been improved in future vehicles, in the newer models of Model 3 and other Tesla vehicles, but all I know is for my car, it can get pretty noisy inside of the vehicle. So even though you don't have an engine, right, it's all electric motors, you hear the outside wind, and if you have really aggressive winter tires, you'll hear the vibration and the noise of those tires inside. So it's not soundproof very well. Your tires wear out much more quickly for an electric vehicle. Just because they're heavier, they do put a lot more wear, so you will be replacing your tires more frequently. And if you do a lot of quick accelerations, because EVs can do that, that can also shred your tires faster. Another problem with Tesla vehicles, the paint chips way too easily. And this is definitely for Model 3, Model Y. I don't know about other models, but those two, you'll just see it. Google it, you'll see what I mean. I've had this problem as well. I end up getting paint protection film. Highly recommend it if you want to hold on to your Tesla for, more than 5 years. I would go with that paint protection film. And I have a video in my channel talking about the cost for that and my experience. Windshield chips. The windshield chips pretty easily. I don't know if it's because the car is low to the ground or the way the aerodynamics work and where the wind pulls in debris, but I found with all my vehicles, this vehicle, the windshield does chip easily. But it's like anything else, covered under insurance. However, sometimes getting service for Teslas can be a challenge. Now, windshields, you can just, depending on where you live, in Prince George, there's windshield shops that will replace it. So that's not a problem at this point. Service. Service is the one biggest weak link Tesla has. And you will find this across the board in North America. The single biggest complaint. Their service is not good. Some people have good experiences, but if you live far away from your Tesla service center like I do, I live a good 7 to 8 hours drive from the closest Tesla service center. There's a lot of problems. There's other owners in town here that had, their heater fail on them and other things, so the car couldn't be driven. If it's under warranty, Tesla will pay to have your vehicle towed to their service center, but then you have to get there to bring it back at your own cost. So it's definitely a weak thing. It can take a very long time to get the service done, and there's been a lot of horror stories around service, and I really wish Tesla would focus on that area. Another negative is phantom braking, and that is the driver assist is really good, but sometimes it detects objects that aren't there. Or sometimes when someone's pulling out in front of you, but they're a distance off, the car thinks that it needs to slow down really fast, and it'll just do it. And if you're not ready for it, it can be dangerous. And so that's what people call phantom braking. I have videos showing examples of it. It's a negative thing. Charging infrastructure in northern BC, that's a negative thing. It's improved in the 2 years that I've lived here, but if you're driving north of town, like I said, there's only one 25 kilowatt charger, and that's really at the edge of many electric vehicles' maximum range. And so I do feel that if you need to drive north, that could be a real challenge. Hopefully it'll improve, but that's a negative. Travel planning and charging is a complex mess. There's not one simple way of knowing how to do a long trip if you're going to go from point A to point B. Sometimes you need to use multiple applications. PlugShare, another one called a Better Route Planner, and who knows what else there is. There's just too many charging networks out there, and sometimes you have to install a bunch of different apps on your phone in order to activate those different networks. So to me, the whole charging outside of Tesla Superchargers, not a problem. It's all built into your Tesla account. You just come in and plug in and you get charged. But outside of that, all the other networks out there, it's a real mess in my opinion. Education is very poor when it comes to electric vehicles. I can't tell you how many times people reach out to me asking very basic questions, and they already own an electric vehicle. No one should leave the sales building without having an understanding of how you charge your car, what the charging networks are that you're compatible with, any adapters that you might need, what it's like to drive in cold weather. All the different nuances of electric vehicles should be described to them because it's a different technology and you have different considerations. And so I just feel, generally speaking, and this is even Tesla sales, they're not very good at communicating. And I'll give an example. I was in Calgary, and at the Tesla dealership, I was going to order a car from them. No one mentioned to me that I needed a CHAdeMO adapter in order to drive home to Prince George. No one discussed this. No one said that, hey, there's no Tesla Superchargers to drive home. You're going to need this adapter, etc. And that was exactly the case at the time. Getting parts can be a challenge. Tesla, it kind of ties into the service, but sometimes it can take a very long time to get parts that you need. One example, if today you want a third-party adapter, like a CHAdeMO adapter or a CCS adapter, Tesla does not sell these on their store right now as of the time of this video. And so there's a number of reasons for that, which I won't get into this video, but this is not related to the parts shortages either. This is just Tesla themselves, because this problem existed even before the pandemic and part shortage globally. Getting vehicles, also getting a Tesla vehicle, has become a big challenge, but also a lot of the other EV manufacturers. It just seems like they're not able to produce enough of these vehicles, and the demand has really skyrocketed. So, that's something to consider. If you think you want to get it next week and you think you're going to get it, within a few weeks after that, you could be sorely mistaken. And this is all the other people in town I've spoken to. They put in an order for an EV and it could be 6 months to a year before they actually get it. So that's definitely a negative. Energy prices can vary quite a bit if you're not charging from home. Generally speaking, your home rates, they only change maybe once a year, not like gas prices that change every other day or every other week. So if you're doing long distance driving though on Superchargers or any of these third-party networks, they just set those rates to whatever they want. And, those are more like gas pumps in the sense that those rates can change easily. All right, so let's get into Turo. So I had my car listed on this car rental website called Turo, where as a personal owner of a vehicle, you can just put it up on the website and rent it out to other people at an agreed upon price. And I did that for about 6 months, and I did make, something like $1,000 or $1,500, and that was kind of cool. But why did I stop? So I was on there, I was making money, it was cool. Well, I have full self-driving on my car, and that's worth about 15,000 Canadian dollars as of today. If someone crashes my car or steals it or whatever, I lose that money. It's not covered under insurance. So that's one reason why I stopped. Also, if I wanted to get a replacement car, it's going to take 6 months to a year to even get a replacement because there's long wait times. Another thing, people rent Teslas so they can test how fast it is, and I just don't want people abusing my car. And it's the kind of car that you'd get, some guy who really wants to shred down the road. So I thought, nah, not interested. And another last item, probably the least important, but it was there. It takes a lot of time to always, polish your car to perfection to give it to someone else to use. And so with all of this, I just said, you know what, I'm out. I'm not doing Puro anymore. So that's really been my 2-year experience. If you have any questions or comments, please put that below in the comment section of this video. I will try to get back to you. I'm going to make a number of videos that kind of focus in on areas like if you're going to do a long distance trip, what is the process that you should go through to do that? How do you plan for success? Probably make a bunch of other videos too, talking about adapters, proper EV care, and various things like that. But if you have any ideas, please put those in the comments of this video, and I will consider it.